And we're live, episode 9 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. Welcome back. Thank you to everyone who continues to watch our videos, check out our Facebook, comment at us, tweet at us on Twitter. Thank you to everyone, all of our fans who continue to make this show possible. I'm Jared, back again with Chris and Ian. Glad to have you guys back again this week. We got an awesome show in store for you. First of all, I want to kind of touch out on something here. I think we all agree on this. We traditionally start the show with our best and worst of the weekend. The worst of the weekend was clearly for all of us the horrible terrorist attacks in Paris and Kenya. Absolutely awful. It's kind of a loss for words with those things. I know a lot of us turn to sports as something that helps us get our mind off of our everyday life. I know we do, and I'm a huge soccer fan and huge concert goer, so those things really hit home for me. Absolutely terrible. So our prayers, our thoughts go out to all the families and victims affected by it. Just absolutely terrible. So from our small show to you guys, we just want to let you know we're thinking about you. So yeah, but let's move on. Little positive note here. We're going to start with our best and worst of the weekend. So, Chris, I'll let you lead it off. What was your best and worst of this past weekend?
Okay, and first of all, I do agree with you about the attacks in France and Kenya. Just terrible stuff here. So we're going to try and move forward and do the best show we can do. We've got, for me, the announcement on Saturday that the Cincinnati Reds are finally doing what we all hoped and prayed that they would do. They're finally shopping their big guns. They went out in public and mentioned that they're actively shopping Todd Frazier, the third baseman, and rumor has it they're hoping to get high-level prospects in return. I don't care what they get in return. I think they can get a fair deal. It may not be as hot of a deal as it would have been in the middle of last year, but that's for a different story. Same goes for Bruce and Chapman. I think all three of those guys are not going to be on the team next year. Phillips, a different story since he's a 5-year guy. He can veto any trade. My worst, Bengals fans, period. You don't boo your team. You don't boo an 8-0 team. I don't care if they're 0-8. They're out there trying to entertain you, playing their asses off. The fans booed the Bengals in the second half because they didn't like what they were seeing on the field. None of us do as Bengals fans, but just a classless move all around to boo the team. So there's my best and worst.
I agree with that. Ian, what's your best and worst of this past weekend?
For my best, I'm going to UFC 193 in Australia. Holly Holm upsetting Rowdy Ronda Rousey. I don't think anyone saw that one coming. Absolutely unreal. She dominated that fight. My worst, like the two of you said, it's absolutely terrible what has transpired over the last week in France and Kenya. But sports-related overall, just the Cleveland Browns in general, minus Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, that was a bad game. Manziel looked good, though, so it's a bright spot for you guys. We'll talk about him later. My best of the weekend was Ezekiel Elliott of Ohio State, rushing for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns over Illinois in their victory over Illinois, stretching his streak of 100-plus consecutive rushing yards to 15 straight games. Awesome performance. He's a monster. Definitely should be in the talks for Heisman. My worst of the weekend, obviously, what I just mentioned when I started the show. But sports-related, my worst of the weekend was the play calling by Hugh Jackson, offense coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely terrible. I don't know what he was thinking. Bad play calling. His worst of the year. Bengals all around. Monday Night Football, laid an egg. Terrible. But, you know, it is what it is. They caught us on a bad night. We'll talk more about that later, but that was my best and worst of the weekend. So thank you, guys. Let's move on to the Cincinnati Reds. We actually have a question from Ricky Barker. Ricky asks, do you guys think it is a mistake for the Reds trying to get MLB-ready players for Chapman and Frazier, or should we go the Houston Astros route and try to get the best prospects? Chris?
I don't necessarily think it's a mistake. I think you have to explore both routes. MLB-ready players is kind of a borderline thing. You're talking about high-level Class AA style players, if I'm not mistaken. I think if you get the best deal, you got to take it. If they can get a couple bats and preferably an outfielder, I think the Reds farm system has enough gloves to last them the next couple decades. But I see where he's coming from on this. You'd like to see just complete bottom to top rebuild. Give me all your prospects and we'll develop them. I think this is a good move, though. I like the middle ground where they're going for somewhat MLB ready players because you don't want to lose 140 games.
True. Ian?
Yeah, like Chris said, I think you can't go wrong with either style there. I think you are more prone to get more out of Chapman. He's the more sexy out of the two as far as what he can do for your team immediately. He's more valuable to a team, especially as we saw how important having a solid back end of your bullpen is in the playoffs. I think teams are going to be more willing to pay up for him as far as players and MLB-ready talent. I do worry that the Reds are going to I think they overrate Frazier, kind of. By no means am I saying Todd Frazier's a bad ball player, but I do think that they may overrate him. They overvalue him. You got to take what you can get. You can't piss too many teams off in the trade market, or they're not going to work with you. But it is a fine line, like Chris said, with what you consider MLB ready talent. It's going to take time to build the Reds back into a contender, so fans need to stay patient. It doesn't necessarily mean that whoever they get for Chapman or Frazier are going to come right in and play. These guys that they trade for could turn into another deal. So you just got to kind of sit tight and wait for everything to fall into place.
Yeah, I agree. I've said in the past, I think the Reds should do exactly what the Houston Astros have done: go younger, get rid of all the big contracts, built through the farm system, and keep the payroll down and win with youth. It's proven to work. The Astros are doing it very well, like we've mentioned in the past. But I think they should go the Houston Astros route personally. I just want to see a winning baseball team. I don't care how they do it. If they got to sign 1 billion players, I don't care. I just want to see a winning baseball team. I know people have asked me, why do you want to tank and like the Astros did and be bad for so long? Is it any worse than right now? Is it any worse? We're not playing in the playoffs.
Not at all.
It's not any worse than right now. I think we need to rebuild, do exactly what the Houston Astros did. It's fine. It's a copycat league. The NFL's the same way. Professional sports are copycat leagues. Do exactly what the Astros have done. 4 or 5 year plan, and we'll be back in the playoffs and contending with youth. And we'll fall in love with those players too, people. I know we all love Frazier and those guys, but we'll fall in love with those guys because we'll be winning. So that's my personal opinion. Thank you, Ricky. Great question, brother.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some college hoops. We got another question. College hoops are back. We all love it. Great time of year. So many sports going on. Jeremy Green has a question. Which Ohio team do you guys think makes it the farthest in the NCAA tournament? Jeremy Jeremy's a big UD guy, so Jeremy has UD moving the farthest. Chris, I think I know your answer, but I will let you lead this off.
I'm trying to be as impartial as I can here, but I'm a huge UC homer. It's my alma mater. I bleed red and black. But I'm going to try and step out and look at the whole picture and be as objective as possible. I still have the Bearcats as the best team in Ohio. I think I had an article that was posted that says that they actually ranked 1 through 351, all NCAA teams. UC came in at number 24 as the highest Ohio-ranked team. I still think that's a little low. I don't think they're top 15 material yet, but they're definitely right around that range. I like UC as the best team in Ohio. I do like Dayton. I think Dayton's got a lot more depth this year, a lot more height than they had last year. And we saw what they did. They just destroyed Alabama today. I like Dayton a lot, but I think Cincinnati ultimately gets it done because, along with that tough defense that they've always had, now they have some scoring to go along with it. They've got more depth than any other team in the conference, and they can finally make some threes. Put up 106 on Sunday against a Robert Morris team that has been to the NCAA tournament. So,
and beat Kentucky a few years back in the NIT. So good for you. It was a down Kentucky team. Nerlens Noel tore his ACL, but I mean, still,
true.
Still. Ian, what about you, man?
Yeah, I think Mick Cronin's team down at UC, they're definitely deep. They're definitely balanced on both sides of the ball. The only thing I worry about is once March gets here, an extended run in the playoffs or in the tournament is really a result of your experience there. So I worry about that. I think UD is going to make the deepest run in the tournament. They are a fun team to watch. The freshman Ryan Mikesell, he's a freshman stud. He's absolutely doing it all for him right now. 21 points in their opener. Looked good again today against Alabama. Archie Miller's got a good thing going at UD. I know there's a lot of teams trying to poach him to come to bigger programs. His brother was right down the highway at Xavier for years, and he left for Arizona once Lute Olson retired. But UD's coming off an Elite Eight run in 2014, then last year they had the third-round loss. But I think UD makes it a little bit further. But this is a fun time for Ohio college hoops. There's a lot of good teams.
For sure, it's a hotbed for both college football and college hoops. So for me, Jeremy, I'm taking UC. I think Cronin is one of the most underrated coaches in the country. He always has his guys playing tough. He has great athletic players on his team. They have a lot of length. They get up and down the floor. Octavius Ellis is an absolute monster. So I will take UC. I think they're going to run the farthest in the tournament out of all the Ohio teams. I hope UD makes a run, though, as always. I think they got a really good team, and I do think Archie will actually be gone sooner or later once one of those bigger teams comes calling. I mean, you can't blame the guy. But yeah, that's an awesome question, Jeremy. Thank you, sir. Now a new little thing we're gonna add in here. Chris, like he said, he is a UC guy through and through. Hits his alma mater. We have quite a few UC questions, so all you Bearcats out there, thank you for sending in your questions.
You guys rock.
Yeah, so thank you guys. Now, Chris being the expert, we're going to do a little rapid fire section, a little rapid fire here with all these questions. Chris, are you ready for UC rapid fire questions? Now, it's football and basketball, I do believe. I think it's mostly basketball. I'll try to keep it mostly basketball since we are talking that. But real quick, Jake Parrish, he asked, what are your thoughts on newcomers Jacob Evans and Justin Jennifer through the first week of the season? Realistic expectations for the two this year. What is the potential impact they can make on this year's squad? And what will Larry Davis returning to UC mean for the program? Go.
Okay. I love Justin Jennifer as a point guard. I think he brings a ton of energy and excitement. He's the best ball handler on the team. He had 9 assists in the last game. I think by the time it's over, by the time he plays, he's going to be a 4-year player, if not starter, by the halfway point of the season. He will be number 1 or 2 on the all-time assists category at UC. Jacob Evans, another highly regarded recruit. Unfortunately, he's a little bit behind Justin Jennifer only because of the depth in the power forward position. You've got Gary Clark, you've got Octavius Ellis. It's going to be a year or two before he can really hit his stride, but he's a guy who's 6'8" that can hit the three. Very exciting player. I think both of them make a huge impact this year. Larry Davis, the coach last year that took over after 10 games when Mick Cronin had his health issues, he took them to the NCAA tournament, got a win over Purdue, fought Kentucky until the depth took over. I think having him back on the bench cannot be understated. He did have some Division I coaching offers. He decided to stay at Cincinnati in his comfort level. He and Mick Cronin have a great thing going. Time.
Awesome. All right, so that was the Facebook questions. Very good job, Chris. Jake, thank you for the questions, brother. Now we got some questions via Twitter, our Twitter account, which is @Ohio Sports Radio. So tweet us your questions. First question comes from @DTV89. Danny asked, who's starting at small forward in March, Shaq or Evans?
Well, Danny, I love this question. I see where you're going with this. Shaq Thomas right now is the starter. Jacob Evans is the freshman, the newcomer, the high recruit. I think you may be seeing a little bit of a Shaq Thomas slouch here. He is a senior. He's the most exciting athlete jumper on the team. The guy can block, he can dunk. He was number 2 SportsCenter highlight reel last night. However, I still think he manages to stay on the team. Mick Cronin's very loyal to his guys. He's the only senior that's actually got a lot of playing time besides Ellis. I think he's still your starting forward in March.
Awesome. Question 2 from Danny @DTV89. He asked, which QB starts week 1 of 2016? UC football. Go.
Gunnar Kiel came in as a 5-star recruit. I think he leaves as a 5-star recruit. I don't think he's ready for the NFL draft. He's been injury prone the last 2 years. He needs to get a full season in. I say Kiel and not Hayden Moore. regardless of the fans screaming for him to start Overkill, I think Kill is your guy in his senior year next year.
Awesome. Question 3, final question from Danny V at DTV89. Will Ellis get drafted?
Short answer, no. Long answer, there has been a bit of a history. There hasn't been a number one guy coming out of UC, number one overall pick since Kenyon Martin in 2001. I don't think a number one overall guy will come from UC in a very, very long time, if not ever. However, draft players and lottery picks do come from this school. The most recent one being Lance Stevenson in 2008. However, I don't think Octavius Ellis is one of those guys. I may be wrong. I think he'll sign on to a team much like Sean Kilpatrick did last year. I think he'll make a roster as Kilpatrick is making a roster, but he's just going to miss the cut.
Thank you, sir. Final question, UC question. Rate mixed glasses on a scale of 1 to 10. That question was from at BCTSWG on Twitter.
Love the question. Love the glasses. I'm giving them an 11. It's Drew Carey style. It's Harry Carey. Just picture a bald, thinner Harry Carey, and you've got Mick Cronin. They go great. I think the glasses go with the style. I don't care what he wears. Just win games. You can make yourself an icon at UC. Just stay along longer than you can get the all-time win record. Love Mick Cronin. Love the glasses.
I agree. Not a UC fan personally, but those glasses are fire. Absolutely. Mick is absolutely dominating the sidelines. So thank you to all the Bearcat fans who sent those questions in. Chris, thank you for your Bearcat knowledge, sir.
Thank you.
Let's move on to a little college football, boys. So we do have a couple college football questions. Actually, we won't. A couple of the UC ones. Big one here from Ken Rice. Who is your guys' Heisman prediction? Who's winning the Heisman for you guys this year? Chris? Actually, Ian, I'll let you lead this one off.
I said at the beginning of the season I've never been a Leonard Fournette guy, even though he was doing very well. Ezekiel Elliott, he's proved that he can turn in great performances week in and week out. He's dominant on the field. He's a workhorse. I'm going Zeke Elliott. He was my preseason pick. I'm staying with him throughout all the entire season.
Chris?
I hear that. I'm going to go a little bit of a dark horse candidate here. Keenan Reynolds, quarterback at Navy. He has Navy currently ranked number 16. One loss, it was to Notre Dame. I think if Navy can run the table, win the conference, and then win their big bowl game, Keenan Reynolds has the all-time rushing record in the NCAA for a career. I think if he can pull that off and get enough publicity on the big stage, I think he's going to pull some votes and maybe have a shot to win this thing. It'd be great to see a guy come out of there besides Roger Staubach, especially being in such a patriotic time.
Yep, I think you can tell who I'm going with. Zeke Elliott, he's my pick. I don't think he gets enough love for what he does. I know Ohio State's schedule is not the best. Ohio State haters, trust me, I understand. I'm a realist. I get it. I sympathize with you. However, Zeke is a monster. You put him on any team in college, he dominates. 15 straight 100-yard rushing games is stupid. It's nasty. He's my Heisman winner. But you never know. The best player in college doesn't always win the Heisman. That may sound weird, but it's true. But Zeke Elliott would be my vote. Ken, thank you, brother, for the question. We appreciate it. So let's move on. We knew it was coming sometime this year. Our Cincinnati Bengals, Chris, would fall into the loss category. It's been a great run for us. 8 straight wins. Monday Night Football in the jungle in Cincinnati, taking on the Houston Texans, and we fall, absolutely lay an egg, lose 10-6 to the Texans. We got quite a few Bengals questions. Absolutely terrible game. But, it is what it is. My personal opinion, they caught us on a bad night. 9 times out of 10, the Bengals win that game, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
Yep.
It is what it is. We got a few Bengals questions, so let's go ahead and get to those. So first one is from Jake Claybaugh. Jake asked, guys, do you think this is just one bad game for the Bengals, or are we looking at the same old bungles from the past? Chris?
Every team lays an egg. The Patriots lay an egg. Only when they lay eggs, somehow they hatch and they turn into eagles and they soar to victory. I just think this happened to be a game that, like you said, Jared, they played on their worst night. The Houston Texans weren't shutting anybody out this year. mean, they weren't lighting the world on fire either. I think both teams' offense had trouble getting going. But let's not underestimate the amazing secondary play on both sides of the ball. How many deflections and near interceptions did we see? At least a dozen, just hands all over the ball. But no, this is not the start of a new trend. They will bounce back. I had said from the beginning, we all knew deep down they were not going to go 19-0 or 16-0. I think the reason this one hurts is because we didn't expect it would happen this week, but that's the NFL. We didn't see the Texans being the one to beat Day. However, you'll see the Bengals back in action pretty soon. I'd say they get back in stride within the next 2 weeks, rip off another short streak.
Yeah, Jake, this great question, man. Thank you. I think it was just a bad game, like I said. I honestly believe 9 times out of 10 the Bengals win that game. Texans were great on defense, but the reason they were great on defense is because the Bengals shot themselves in the foot. They had so many penalties that made it would start to drive 1st and 20, 1st and 15, long, a lot of yards, a lot of build up, backed up on penalties. Absolutely terrible play calling by Hugh Jackson. Andy Dalton is going to get the bulk of this, and we have a question in regards to that. But he doesn't deserve it. He hit so many guys in the numbers. It was just an uncharacteristic game from so many players, and when you have that, it just doesn't click. You don't win those games. The defense, if you would have told me, hey, we're going to hold the Texans to 10 points at home, yeah, that's a win. I would have bet my house. I would have bet anything on it. So yeah, just a bad game, Jake. I think we're fine. I think this is still one of the best Bengals teams of all time. But we'll see how they bounce back. They got a big test on Sunday, and we'll see how they bounce back. But thank you, brother, for the question. Great question. And just like I just mentioned, we have a question from Alex Kakaris. He wants to know, why is it that Andy Dalton is the first person to blame when we lose? Why not the receivers? Why not the tight ends who were dropping passes and fumbling late in the game? Chris?
I think it comes with the territory. It used to be Marvin Lewis was a scapegoat of this team when Carson Palmer was the golden boy and could do no wrong. For whatever reason, we always find a player to target, and Cincinnati fans are not unique to this, but they do it to the Reds also. I just think Dalton's the easy target. He's the nice guy. He's the all-shucks, I almost had it kind of guy, and that just doesn't sit well with a lot of fans. I, however, love Andy Dalton, and I think he deserves less than 0% of the blame. I think he's done a phenomenal job this season. However, the play calling did not do anything in his favor. Tyler Eifert had a couple balls hit him right in between the shoulder pads. Didn't do anything in his favor. A.J. Green fumbling. They always had a chance to be in this game, and that's all you can ask for your quarterback.
I 100% agree. We've mentioned it in the past. Honestly, I think part of this is because he has red hair. I don't know the hatred for people with red hair. I really don't. It's kind of stupid, but Andy Dalton, he gets hated on. One, you don't. I posted a story with Andy, him and his wife. They have the Andy Dalton Foundation, and they took 3 or 4 families with high hospital bills, and they paid them off. So we'll constantly hear about J.J. Watt. We'll constantly hear about Russell Wilson and these guys who do great things, charitable work. We don't hear about Andy Dalton. The only thing we hear about Andy Dalton is he's lost 4 straight playoff games. That's all you hear. He doesn't perform in prime time. This guy's a winner. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say something, because like Chris said, I've loved Andy Dalton since he was drafted by the Bengals. I think he's an excellent quarterback, and I think he manages games well. This is my biggest gripe against fans. For the last 4 years, I have sat back and I have said, Andy Dalton has, won 10 games every season. He's got you to the playoffs. Why do you dog a guy like this? And then it comes back to them saying, well, the season doesn't matter. We just want to win in the playoffs. Okay, understood. You get to last night, Bengals lose. There are hundreds of Bengals fans out on the Brent Spence Bridge getting ready to jump into the river. I thought the season wins didn't matter. You guys are still a playoff team. Like Chris mentioned in his worst of the week, the fans. Why do you flip-flop? It kills me. It kills me, Cincinnati. And I'm the same way with Reds fans, so I know how it goes. I'm a Reds fan. I flip-flop a lot. But that kills me so much. This guy goes out there week in, week out. Have you forgotten about the 90s? Give it up on the guy.
Yes.
You're going to get to the playoffs. You're going to get there.
Every fan in Cincinnati has forgotten about the 90s. We were not only the worst team in the NFL, we were voted the worst team, worst pro franchise in all of sports. Do you understand how bad that is? We were terrible in the 90s. We were awful. We have a guy that's coming in here and taking us to the playoffs. Okay, Peyton Manning didn't win right away in the playoffs. I'm not comparing Andy Dalton to Peyton Manning, but Dalton is a winner. He has that common link with Peyton Manning. He's a winner. He's won in high school, he won in college, and he's won in the NFL. He's winning in Cincinnati. Calm down. Marvin Lewis is winning. Do you understand the Browns? If they would have Marvin Lewis and if they had Marvin Lewis as their head coach, he would have been gone 9 years ago. He would have been fired 9 years ago. For Mike Brown to stick with Marvin Lewis and keep a system in place, that is
Right.
what's the success of the Bengals. The Bengals, the Browns, these teams that are terrible or were terrible, it's a 10-year job. It's not a 1, 2, 3. You can't rebuild in that.
You can't do it overnight.
You can't do it overnight. It's a 10-year job. The Bengals came in. They kept Marvin Lewis around. Marvin Lewis, the best thing he ever did, said, "Chad Johnson, you're the all-time leading receiver in our franchise history. Get the hell out of here. You're a loudmouth. You won't shut up. Get out of here." I love Chad, but Chad had to go. T.O., get out of here. He got rid of all the players that caused drama. He brings in players like Andy Dalton, who's charitable, doing things says everything right. He's doing everything right in the community, winning ball games. A.J. Green, you never hear anything from A.J. ever. Tyler Eifert, the most humble kid I've ever met. Gio, Jeremy Hill. They get these kids with character and they turn them into men. And they're playing. They're out there winning. You can't ask for anything better. The Bengals are going to the playoffs. You can't ask for it. They will get a playoff win. They will. Just back your team. Andy Dalton is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Who else do you want to do it? Who else is there to do it? Yes, we want Aaron Rodgers. We can't have him. Yes, we'd like to have Tom Brady. We can't have him. Yes, we'd like Peyton Manning of old or Drew Brees of old. But Andy Dalton wins just like those guys. Okay? The Bengals used to be – do you remember being a Bengals fan back then? Bengals fan? I remember going to the games and picking tickets off of car windshields and going into the game for free. I remember turning off games by halftime to go out to mow the yard or rake leaves because they were so bad and miserable to watch. Now we're going to the playoffs. Now we're winning. We're selling out games. We have a good team. Stick behind your team. But Alex, I don't know. I don't know why people dog Andy. I don't know why they dog Marvin. I don't get it. I stick behind my team. I love the Bengals. I need a Bengals Super Bowl more than I need oxygen in my lungs. If the Bengals ever go to the Super Bowl, I will go into crippling credit card debt to go to that game. You have no idea.
Same thing, baby.
I'll sell off my possessions. But Alex, thank you. Great question. Two more Bengals questions. Brittany Dunaway has this is one of her two questions she asked. She says, "What was going on with Cincinnati's play calling last night?" Like I said, Hugh was terrible. He didn't establish a run. It seemed like Gio would get 6 or 7 yard gains, 8 yard gains, and then you wouldn't see him for 15 plays. I don't know, Chris. What do you see?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he tried to establish a good run game at first. I think it failed. I think he went with what worked, and he went with Giovanni Bernard. However, he didn't give him enough patience. He kept flip-flopping his play calls, too many dinky-dunky passes, too many bubble screens. I don't like the fact that Jeremy Hill is not hitting the hole like he was last year. Throughout the last 8 weeks last year, he had the best yardage of any NFL player on the ground, and he's a rookie. This year, you're not seeing that. He's trying to dance. He's trying to get too cute. He's 230 pounds. Punch the hole.
Yeah, like I said, the one knock on Hill coming out of college was he was too upright when he went through holes, and you can see he stands up when he runs through holes, and he does too much bouncing behind the line. He's not quick enough to get east-west. He's a north-south back. Last night, when he got north-south quick, 8-yard carries, 10-yard carries. He didn't have many of them, but because they got negated with penalties and holdings and things. But that's his strength. Jeremy Hill, his one knock last year was fumbling. I think it's still in his head this year. I don't care who runs the ball, like we've said in the past, but they need to establish some running game. They did not do it last night. They threw too many screenplays. I felt like Hugh tried to get too cute with play calling. Weird formations, weird shifts. The Texans' D was not that good. They're good, but they're good on 3rd and long, which they put the Bengals in many times because of penalties. The Bengals, Andy Dalton hit Eifert in the numbers many times. Eifert dropped a pass in the red zone. I don't know if they would have scored on that, but they had to settle for a field goal. But still, anytime you drop a ball in the red zone and stall a drive, he did that a few times. just bad mistakes all around. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, I do believe the Bengals win that game, rough night, but we'll bounce back from it. But thank you, Brittany, for the question. I know you're a Browns fan in enemy territory, but thank you. Final question for the Bengals. Zach Branson wants to know, what dirt do you guys think Brandon Tate has on Marvin Lewis? Because there's got to be somebody on this team that can return punts other than Pac-Man. Chris?
Um, I don't think it's more so the fact that he's blackballing anyone, but I think Pac-Man still has it. He's 32 years old. I like Pac-Man returning punts and kicks. He likes to do it himself. I think he can be reckless if there's a knock on him. Sometimes you got to fair catch that ball, bro. I know it might cost you one day, but he did have some big returns actually. One of them was called back. He got past the 50-yard line and went deep into the territory of the Texans. Had it called back. He's always going to be there. I have no problem with him returning everything as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, I don't think Pac-Man was healthy completely last night. I think he was seeing stars for a little bit. He was on the sideline. I don't know if you guys noticed. He was smelling what looked like ammonia tabs. So
Yep.
I think he was seeing some stars. He got kind of knocked up on that one play where that guy's knee hit his helmet. I don't know. I think if he's available and healthy, he should return everything because he's a monster. He's a big play machine. We've talked about it many times. If he's healthy and can do it, I think he should be the one to do it. Brandon Tate's average over his career is 9.7 yards on a return on punts, which isn't terrible. Best all time is George McAfee, and he was 12.8 yards. Now that's a big difference in punt returns. I understand. Rule of thumb though, if you can get 10 yards on a punt return, it's a pretty good punt return. So Tate's right there. He's just kick returns are different. He just doesn't ever. He's stupid with kick returns. He takes balls out when he's too deep in the end zone. I don't know. I don't know. That team, I don't know. Too soon. But Zach, thank you, sir. Thank you. That's it for the Bengals. Tough loss. We will bounce back, hopefully. But yeah, on to your Cleveland Brownies, Z. Another tough week. Another loss. Johnny Manziel looked good, though, man. And they did announce that Johnny Manziel will be the starter for the rest of the year. They must have listened to our show, which is awesome. But, Ian, any recap, anything you want to say about your Browns on Sunday?
Like you said, Manziel looked great. 33 of 45, 372 yards. He had a touchdown, an interception, and then that first attempted pass of the game, it ruled as a fumble. I don't know what the hell happened there. Must have been nerves. Yeah, like you said also, they came out and announced that he's going to start the rest of the season. Josh McCown has been full support for this. I think McCown can be a great mentor for Manziel. For the game itself, though, the offensive line looked terrible. Manziel was sacked 5 times. I think that ended up taking the lead in the league. I think it's even worse than the Seahawks offensive line, which is bad. 12 penalties. We always get so many penalties on the road. 12 penalties, 188 yards. I mean, almost 200 yards in penalties. You can just go ahead and pencil in the loss. It's terrible. 3 turnovers. Pittsburgh started in Browns territory on 50% of their possessions. That's unheard of. Ridiculous. But for once, trying to find a positive with the run defense, they held the Steelers to 60 yards rushing. I know that's without Le'Veon Bell, but D'Angelo Williams has done great as a backup. So run defense looked good. Some of the wide receivers did well. Travis Benjamin had another big day. Gary Barnidge looked good again, had another touchdown. Hawkins, Baby Hawk had a good one. Hartline had some numbers. Hawkins did leave the game with a concussion, which that's just Cleveland Browns football. Everybody's got a concussion now. But, I mean, there are some positives. Overall, it was an ugly game. Johnny Manziel, though, looked fantastic.
Speaking of Manziel, final question for the Browns from Miss Brittany Dunaway, her second question of the night. Thank you, Brittany. She writes, is Johnny the right guy in Cleveland, E?
Is anybody the right guy in Cleveland? I could be the right guy in Cleveland if I was given time. Since 2008, I'm going to run down a list. Derek Anderson, Brady Quinn, Ken Dorsey, Bruce Gregkowski, Colt McCoy, Jake Delhomme, Seneca Wallace, Brandon Whedon, Thad Lewis, Jason Campbell, Brian Hoyer, Johnny Manziel, Connor Shaw.
Hey, real
That's
quick, Bengals fans, do you hear that? Do you hear all that? And we got a guy that's gone to the playoffs 4 years in a row who's winning 10 games a season. And do you hear that list of quarterbacks? And since 2008, do you think the Browns would like to have Andy Dalton up there? You bet your ass they would. Ian, continue.
it's not even about that. Yeah, I'd love to have Andy Dalton, but the fact of the matter is, 14 quarterbacks in 7 years. Also in those 7 years, 5 head coaches: Romeo Crennel, Mangini, Pat Shermer, Chudzinski, Mike Pettin. How is there supposed to be any continuity? How is there supposed to be a system in place? How do you stick with one guy? The next guy wants to come in and do better than the previous guy, so he brings in another quarterback.
And
Brady Quinn could have done well.
Yeah, and they always bring in a new offense, so the players got to learn a new offense. Quarterback has to learn a new offense. It takes time. So then again, fans, Marvin Lewis keeping a system in place. Thank you very much, Ian. You have the floor again, sir.
Johnny Manziel could be the guy if they give him the time, whether Pettin's the head coach next year or not. If the next head coach comes in, if it's not Pettin, if they let Manziel flourish, if they get him the weapons he needs, you can't stand pat with this team because Johnny won't succeed with this team. You got to build around your quarterback. You got to give him the weapons. He's a run and gun type quarterback. He's on the run. I don't know what's going to happen with Josh Gordon next year. I think Gordon could be a good wide receiver for him. That's if Gordon comes back and has his mind fully clear on the things, his off the field issues. But you never know. You gotta be able to support your quarterback. You gotta have a good supporting cast. You gotta have a system in place. Johnny could be the guy, but who knows?
Yeah, my personal opinion. A couple weeks ago, we talked about should they have traded Joe Thomas for a draft pick. Now, I say they should have. I say you bulk up that line. I texted you, Ian, during the game. I said this may be the worst offensive line in the NFL, and I believe that. Manziel may not be the guy of the future, but he's the guy right now. Play him the rest of the year. I mean, you guys are 2-8. See what you got. You're not going to go to the playoffs. You're not going to win the AFC North. If you do, that's the most miraculous thing I've ever seen. But play him now. See what you have in this guy. He looks good. He looked good against the Bengals. He looked good against the Steelers. That line is terrible. He was constantly running for his life. Luckily, he's good with his feet and can get out of trouble. Duke is a monster. He can be good if he had a line that could create holes for him. If you get Josh Gordon back and you have a deep threat, my God, think about him and Travis Benjamin together. That's a duo right there, man. If I'm the Browns, I build on my offensive line. I want nothing but slobs, and I want nothing but absolute monsters up front that would protect my quarterback. I think you guys should have traded Joe Thomas for that draft pick. Now, it's easy to say Thomas is still a monster, but Alex Mack has been getting worked these past few games, man.
Terrible.
I'm sorry. I've watched it. He's supposed to be a Pro Bowler. He got worked by Geno Atkins, and he got worked in that Steelers game. I saw him get pushed completely backwards onto his butt. That's terrible. That's bad. I don't know. I'm glad the Browns are starting Johnny. I feel like it was a personal thing between Pettin and Johnny. I really do. I think the front office had to say, no, this is our guy. Start him now, and that's why Pettin's starting him. Just bad in Cleveland, but hopefully Johnny plays well at the end of the season. You don't have to waste a draft pick on a quarterback.
I agree.
Chris, you got anything to add, man?
I was actually going to piggyback off of that. Jared, let's play hypothetical, or Ian, I guess, rather for you as well. The Browns end up with the number 1 pick. Ian, who would you like to see them go for?
The number 1 pick?
Number 1 overall.
Trade down because they don't know how to take a number 1 pick.
I say trade down as well. Get as much as you can because there's going to be some teams that need a quarterback in this in the NFL. The Niners being one of them. There's a lot of teams that are going to need quarterbacks. The Lions may need one. And I don't know. Trade down and see if you can get somebody, get some more picks, build that line. That's my opinion. But yeah, Brittany, thank you. Browns fans, stick with your team. You guys are the best fans in football. There's no question about it. To continuously root for a team that is that bad says something. Bengals fans, you should take lessons from Browns fans. You need to learn to love your team through thick and thin. The Browns, I don't know what you guys did to deserve a team like that. They moved. They moved their franchise, and they still die hard. Can you imagine? Bengals fans, you say what you want about Browns fans, say what you want about their team, They have the most diehard fans in football. But awful, awful. Chris, awful. We stunk it up with our NFL picks this week. Just terrible. We
Yes.
stunk it up. So anyone who followed us and put money on games because of us, we're sorry. But we got the bad beats out of the way. Ian, do you want to recap our awful week of picks?
Week 10 was brutal, fellas. The away team went 11-3 this week, and that killed us. I brought up the rear at 3-11. That just hurts to say. Chris went 4-10. Jared finished 5-9 for the win. Jared with his 6th weekly win. Chris and I sit at 4. Jared's 91-54 overall. I'm 85-60. Chris, your game back at 84-61.
Even when I'm not at my best, I still can pull out a win. So I'm happy with it. It was ugly, but I'm happy to get the win. But let's go ahead. Let's get into our NFL picks for this upcoming week. You guys ready for this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So NFL picks for. Sorry about that. NFL Week 11, first game, Thursday Night Football. We got the Tennessee Titans on the road. Chris taking on your Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris, who do you have in this one?
This is the Chris Bowl.
The two teams that I vowed never to ever choose a winner again. This is my Super Bowl. I'm going to be glued to the TV. I'm going to have everything ready to go. I'm going to be super jacked to watch the Jacks take it to the Titans. Blake Bortles is going nuts at home. I like Jacksonville in this. I think they suck a little bit less. Both defenses are really bad, but Jacksonville has the offensive edge in this one.
Ian?
Yeah, tale of two bad teams. Tennessee has the defense, but they can't score. Jacksonville can score, but they don't have a defense. Last week I said it. The away teams went 11-3. I'm going to flip the script and say 11 home teams win this week, but I'm going with the road team. Tennessee has the 4th-ranked pass defense. I think they're going to lay it to Bortles. I'm going with the Titans.
Great pick, Ian. I agree with you in this one. Mariota's a stud. I think he's the Titans' answer at quarterback for years to come. I think Bortles is a stud, though, as well. He just needs a surrounding cast around him. But I do like the Titans on the road to beat the Jaguars in this one. Second game of the week, we got the Oakland Raiders on the road taking on the red-hot Detroit Lions. 1-game victory. First win in Lambeau in a long time. So who do you guys got in this one, Chris?
Yeah, I couldn't believe. I actually heard that it was the first win at Lambeau since 1991. So
Right.
The same drought that the Bengals have had in a playoff appearance before 2005, but a playoff win. I think their last playoff win was 1990. So just a terrible drought to have end. Hopefully another one will end with our Bengals. But I like the Raiders in this game. They're a better team. They've got a better quarterback and a better defense. So I'm going with the Raiders on the road.
Ian?
I agree with Chris. I'm going with the Raiders this week.
I agree with you guys. It's a sweep. Raiders on the road. Stafford sucks. Carr doesn't. Third game, we got the Indianapolis Colts without Andrew Luck, who is out. They will be starting Hasselbeck on the road, taking on the Atlanta Falcons in the Dome. Chris, who do you have in this one?
The Colts are hurting a little bit, and they've been having some pressure put on them now from the Houston Texans. They may be getting a little bit of a roll down there. There's just a terrible division. A 6-10 team could end up winning that division, and I think it takes a step towards that direction on Sunday. I think the Falcons beat the Colts. I know Hasselbeck can get it done. He's shown that in the past, but Matt Ryan's tough at home.
I agree. Matt Ryan is really tough at home. I like the Falcons over the Colts.
Yeah, Colts defense is terrible. Falcons offense is not. Falcons at home for me in this one. Next game, we have the Jets on the road taking on the Houston Texans. Chris, who do you have in this one?
This may have been the toughest call for me. Maybe because I have a bad taste in my mouth over the Houston game. I have the false impression that they're a good team. I think the Jets are a good team. I think Houston's decent. They're capable of beating anyone. However, I think the Jets are going to get it done after the disappointing loss they just suffered at the hands of their old boss, Rex Ryan. I think they come together and gel on the road at Houston. Houston may be feeling a little hungover. I'm going with the Jets.
Ian?
I like the Texans on a short week at home. If the Colts lose, Texans have a shot to tie for that division lead. I know it's a terrible division, but I've got the Texans winning at home.
I'm taking the Jets in this one. I think the Texans won their Super Bowl on Monday. Apparently they did. I mean, they beat the Bengals, and they got their fourth win of the year. Now, they're now tied for first in that terrible division. I said it last night. You put the Cleveland Browns in that division, they win it every year. The Texans stink. J.J. Watt, you stink. Saying all that stuff about my quarterback. You're corny as hell. That was the corniest thing I've ever heard. J.J. Watt only turns it on when the lights are on him. Yes, he's a beast. Yes, he's a great player. But the dude is corny. I lost so much respect for him. And it wasn't even bad. It was just such a terrible joke. J.J. Watt, you suck. Texans suck. I'm taking the Jets in this one. Buccaneers versus the Eagles in Philadelphia. Chris, who are you taking in this one?
I think both teams have some momentum going. The Buccaneers have been proven to be a formidable team this year. But I like Philly at home. I think that they have just too much talent. Bradford threw for 1 billion yards last week, so I think he keeps it going here.
Bradford's out in this one. He's got that messed up shoulder. Do you want to change that pick? I'm being generous this week.
I appreciate that. I still have faith in the Eagles.
So you're sticking with the Eagles, all right? Ian, who you got this one?
If Bradford played, I would have taken the Eagles. Sanchez is playing. I despise Mark Sanchez. I don't know why. I've never liked him. Even at USC, I didn't care for him. I'm going with the Bucks. They are my last away team. I have winning this week.
Wow. I'm taking the Buccaneers in this one. I like Jameis. I think he's if you put weapons around him, he can be a good quarterback in the NFL. Very Cam Newton-esque. Not as good as Cam, but he could be a good quarterback. Mark Sanchez is terrible. He's awful. Eagles do have a good defense, though. It will be tough at home, but I'm taking the Buccaneers just for an upset. This was actually a really hard game for me, but I'll take the Buccaneers in that one. Next game, we have the Broncos without Peyton Manning. Brock Osweiler will be starting that game. The Broncos on the road taking on Mr. Fourth Quarter and the Chicago Bears, Jay Cutler. Chris, who do you have in this one?
The Osweiler era begins in Denver. I think Denver, unfortunately, just played themselves out of the 2 seed in the AFC. I think since it just opens the door for the Bengals to win 6 more games and lock that thing down. We hope at least. The Bears were on a roll last week. I think they keep it going again. I like him at home. I think Osweiler's going to take a while to get integrated into the games his first start.
Ian?
Chris stole my thunder. I agree with everything he said. I'm taking the Bears.
I agree with you guys. Sweep on this one. I'm taking the Bears at home. Peyton has a torn fascia in his foot. That is one of the most excruciating pains that anyone can go through. The weird thing about that injury is you actually want it to tear all the way through. You don't want it to partially tear, which he has. You never know when it will tear all the way through. If it tears all the way through, you actually have some relief. He looked awful in that game against the Chiefs. He's looked bad all year. Peyton is declining at a very rapid rate, and it's really, really sad to see. He's one of the great quarterbacks in history.
Absolutely.
It's awful to see. He looks bad. They're winning with their defense. I don't know how Osweiler puts up points. Kubiak's going to run the ball galore in this one, but I like the Bears. They've looked good the past few weeks. Langford is a stud. Matt Forte got hurt at the wrong time because Langford may not lose that job. Next game, we got the Rams on the road taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who lost a tough game to the Jaguars. Chris, who do you have in this one?
The Ravens just keep fighting, and the Rams just keep finding a way to hang on. I think the Rams are somewhere around 500, maybe 4-5. Ravens, much less than that. They don't have a shot at the playoffs, but they have a lot to play for. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens at home. I think they're still stinging from last week. I like them just simply because they're the home team, and I think Joe Flacco is going to have a decent matchup through the air. Not so much the ground game, but I think he gets a lot of passes off on Sunday.
Ian?
Yeah, by no means am I a Ravens fan. Screw you, Art Modell. But the Rams are starting Case Keenum this week instead of Nick Foles. I think the Ravens, they're playing for pride right now. I got the Ravens winning at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens as well in this one. There's no team in the NFL that has had more tough losses than the Ravens. Maybe the Chargers. I don't know. Giants, maybe. but the Ravens are losing games in such weird ways. The NFL said that was that the lineman for Jaguars was not set. The Ravens that game should have been a runoff. Ravens should have won. Instead, Jaguars got that face mask penalty and was able to win the game. I like the Ravens in this one. The Rams stink on offense. They got a good defense, but I don't know. This one may be a low-scoring game or it could be crazy. You never know. I'll take the Ravens. Next game, we got the Cowboys. Tony Romo is coming back for this week. They lost 7 straight games without Romo, but he will be back this week on the road taking on the Miami Dolphins. Chris, who do you have in this one?
I had this game picked, and then I changed my pick, and then I changed it again. I think I went back and forth about 3 or 4 times. This is a complete coin flip. The Dolphins have been playing better, obviously. They got the win last week, and the Cowboys are completely crummy, but we don't know what they're going to be like with the new Tony Romo. I'm going to go with the Cowboys just based on the fact that playing in that weather on the road, I think Romo's been itching to get out there. He swears that his shoulder's healthy. He wants to prove it. I think he throws for 1 billion yards. I like the Cowboys.
Ian?
1 billion yards would be a record. I'm taking the Dolphins this week.
Dallas Cowboy fans, I have a message for you. Do not bring Tony Romo back this year, you idiots. Sit him. He has a clavicle injury. He's going to get sacks. He's going to fall on that shoulder. If it gets hurt again, he's out for the beginning of next year. You never know how long it's going to take to heal if it breaks again. Why not sit Romo this year? You have a shot to win that terrible division, but odds are you won't. You're banged up with injuries. Sit him. Tank this season. You've already tanked it. Get a high draft pick and draft a running back, which you need, like I don't know, Zeke Elliott behind that line, and give Romo some help. It doesn't hurt to have a high draft pick. In my opinion, I would sit Romo for the rest of the year. I know they're not going to, but I just don't think the Cowboys are that good. I'm taking the Dolphins at home. I don't know. Dan Campbell's got the team playing all right. Comeback win last week, so I'll take the Dolphins. Next game, we got the Washington Redskins on the road taking on the Panthers. Chris, do you like that?
I do. The Redskins shocked us all with their win last week. I think a lot of teams have been shocking a lot of teams last week. I think the underdogs won, if I'm not mistaken, 10 straight up. That's unheard of. I think that the script gets flipped on this one. Things are going to start evening out. As Ian said, home teams will be heavy this week. You would think. So I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one, undefeated Panthers to keep it rolling. But I'm still not convinced on the Redskins. They had one good week. It does not make a bad team a good team.
E?
Panthers win again. Cam Newton dances some more.
Yeah, I got the Panthers in this one. Redskins did look good last week. Kirk Cousins looked good. However, he was going against Rob Ryan's terrible defense. I've said it over and over. How does that guy have a job in the NFL? He doesn't anymore. He's been fired. It took them long enough. Rob Ryan has been the defensive coordinator with Oakland, Cleveland, Dallas, and the Saints. You know how many winning seasons he had with those 4 teams? One winning season with 4 teams as a defensive coordinator. He's terrible. The Ryan brothers are terrible. Rob Ryan, that guy's an awesome guy to take to a Kiss concert or something like that, or a death metal concert. You never know. But the guy, terrible defensive coordinator. I don't know. I got the Panthers in this one. Their defense is too good. Panthers for me. Next game, we got the Kansas City Chiefs, who are coming off a huge win over the Denver Broncos, on the road taking on the Chargers. Chris, who do you have in this one?
I think the Chiefs are rolling. I think they keep it going. I like the Chiefs in this game. Chargers have just been they've lost too many games. They remind me a lot of the Ravens preseason hype and just have completely fallen flat. I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
E?
I'm going to stick with my home team barrage here. I think the Chargers are going to play spoiler this week, and I think they're going to put a halt to the Chiefs' recent success. I'm going with Chargers.
The Chargers are a team that's been really banged up, and I don't think their record is bad, or I don't think they're as bad as their record shows. However, the Chiefs are finding ways to win, and that's I mean, going into Mile High and winning is always that's always a feat. So I'm gonna take the Chiefs this week. I just think they keep it rolling. Next game, we got the Green Bay Packers, who have lost their last 3. Crazy to think. On the road, taking on the red-hot Minnesota Vikings. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's crazy that the Packers have lost 3 in a row. They were everyone's Super Bowl darlings from the NFC. It was almost a foregone conclusion after 6 weeks. Even crazier to think is that they're going to lose 4 in a row because I had the Vikings taking them down at home. Just two different teams going in two different directions. Although we saw how that worked last week, anything is possible. I like the Vikings at home, however.
E?
Yeah, the Packers offense, they look lost. Rodgers looks lost. That's the first time I think any of us has ever said that. And it's not going to get any easier going up against that Vikings defense. Mike Zimmer prepares his team very well. I really needed the Packers to win last week because it's so hard to go against the Packers when they've lost that many in a row. But Vikings keep it rolling. Vikings win at home.
Yeah, this is a battle for first place in that division. The Rodgers has been struggling because he doesn't have a deep threat in Jordy Nelson. Cobb can't get off the line as fast as Nelson could, and they're really missing Jordy Nelson. Eddie Lacy, what the heck happened to that guy? Eddie Lacy looked like he gained 100 pounds this year.
Awful.
Yeah,
My fantasy team hates that.
yeah, mine as well. Yeah, terrible. Packers, I don't know what their deal is. It's hard to go against them. However, the Vikings have the second best defense in the NFL, giving up the second fewest points to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are number one, fewest points in the NFL, given up. Zimmer's defenses in Cincinnati and in Minnesota, top two. I'll take the Vikings at home in this one. Next up, we have the 49ers on the road taking on the Seattle Seahawks and the 12. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Seattle's home field advantage isn't that scary, it doesn't seem, this year. Carson Palmer seemed to just have no problem taking them down. I know it was a late victory, but he had them very amped. That's some Carson Palmer that we haven't seen even in Cincinnati. He's playing on another level right now, but we'll get to that later. I do like the Seahawks to take care of the 49ers this week. I think they bounce back. I don't see them losing 2 games in a row at home. Not possible. I'm going Seahawks.
Ian?
Yeah, Seahawks, like Chris said, Seattle's not a very scary place to play anymore. But the 49ers are bad. They're winless on the road this year. They're almost winless in the league. That's how bad they are. I'm taking the Seahawks at home.
2 to 3 years ago, this was the game of the week every time. This was a great rival a couple years ago. The Seahawks and their Legion of Boom has really looked like the Legion of Meh this year. They've really not looked great. I don't know if they want to credit that to Cam Chancellor holding out, but I don't buy that. Their defense just doesn't look good. They look terrible on offense. Their offensive line, like you said, is god awful. It's so bad. Russell Wilson looks bad. They're not using Jimmy Graham. They traded for him. They're not using him at all.
Right.
I'm taking the Seahawks though at home in this one. That's how bad the Niners are. Tom Sula is a terrible coach. I'm taking the Seahawks. Next game, Sunday Night Football. Our Cincinnati Bengals, Chris, on the road taking on their toughest opponent of the year in the Arizona Cardinals. Chris, who wins this one?
I had this game circled on the calendar as you did, probably as their toughest game of the season. I think that still holds true. I know they have to go to Denver. Denver all of a sudden isn't as scary. Carson Palmer is a man on a mission. He's a man possessed. He's playing on another level. He's playing like the Heisman Trophy winner of 2002. And he has an attitude now. With the Carson Palmer of Cincinnati was Mr. Humble, Mr. I don't care. And this Carson Palmer is telling the 12th man to suck it. So I think that he's just on another level. I hate to do this. The Bengals are going to be fine. They're going to win 12, 13 games. They're going to get the 2 seed. We're going to be fine. We're going to the playoffs. We may even get a bye. But I have them losing this week at Arizona. For the first time, I'm falling off the wagon on this one. I love my Bengals. You have all my faith in the world. But I got to go with my head in this. I'm going Arizona.
Ian, who do you got in this one? Chris, that hurts.
This was after the Bengals started reeling off a few wins at the beginning of the season. When I looked ahead at the schedule, this was the one that I circled that I thought this would be their first loss. So I'm not one of those guys that's saying, oh, Cincinnati's coming off a loss. They've fallen off the bus. Everything's going wrong. I like the Cardinals in this. Like Chris talked about with Carson Palmer's play this year, everybody wants to talk about Tom Brady. Everybody wants to talk about Cam Newton. Carson Palmer is a viable MVP option right now in this league. He's doing things that I don't think anyone would have expected him to do at his age. He's doing awesome in Arizona. He's found new life in Larry Fitzgerald. He's got great wide receivers. He's got a youthful Chris Johnson at running back. That line's okay. The defense is fantastic in Arizona. I know you guys don't like to look too far ahead, but this is a possible Super Bowl matchup. So, but coming down to it, I got the Cardinals at home out in the desert Sunday.
This is either going to be a really, really great game or it's going to be a really, really awful game. I don't know either side of the ball, but my streak will continue. I've said it every week, and I will say it this week. I am picking the Bengals every single week this year. I don't care if they're playing the 1985 Chicago Bears, the greatest team of all time. I will pick the Bengals. I'm taking them to go into Arizona. I think that the loss against the Texans is a wake-up call for this team. Hugh's going to run the ball down their throat. I know they have a great defense. I like A.J. Green, all of his weapons, Tyler Eifert to get back on track. I'm taking the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. I love my Bengals. 6-4 all-time against Arizona. 13-2-1 in their last 16 games against NFC opponents. That's pretty damn good, guys. I'm taking the Bengals on this one. I think we see 1 o'clock Andy Dalton show up at 8 o'clock at night. So I'm taking the Bengals. Final game of the week, Monday Night Football. Sexy Rexies, Buffalo Bills on the road taking on the New England Patriots in Foxborough, and the Dark Lord, Bill Belichick. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Sexy Rexy and the Dark Lord. That's all I'm going to think about when I'm watching this game next week. I think the Dark Lord gets it done once again, cloak and all. It's hard to pick against the Patriots. Even when they lose, they win. I think everyone in the world thought the Giants finally had him again. Tom Coughlin has always seemed to have his number, but they found a way to kick a 55-yarder and squeak it through the left upright. They're going to find a way again, even against Sexy Rexy. I'm going Patriots.
E?
Pat's got to focus on one thing and one thing only, and it's not going undefeated. It's not winning every game. It's staying healthy from this point forward. Julian Edelman, losing Deion Lewis, these losses keep stacking up injury-wise. They're not going to be there at the end if they absorb any other type of injury. I mean, Danny Amendola is going to slide into Edelman's spot, but can you really recreate what Julian Edelman does for this team? I don't think you can. God forbid something happened to Gronk, it's over. So, I mean, I think the Pats get it done, but I think you're going to see them play more conservative football, not try to do these big plays that they've been pulling off. Their main focus right now has to be to stay healthy, or they're not going to be there at the end in February.
Yeah, this Rex Ryan stinks. I don't know what he's done in the NFL. I hate the Ryan brothers. I think they're the most overrated coaches. I don't know. I'm waiting for Rex to say something and just poke the bear in Bill Belichick and the Patriots. He always does it. He can't help himself. He always has to go out there and talk about pretty boy Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. He cannot help himself against them. He will say something to anger the bear, and they're going to go in there. It's going to be a bloodbath again. He does it every time. If he doesn't, I'll be amazed. The Patriots stay undefeated in this one. I think the Patriots and Panthers will lose this year. No team will go undefeated. So Miami Dolphins of old, you get those champagne bottles ready. I think they will lose. Like Ian said, the Patriots are continuing to lose players with injuries. Panthers, great team, but sooner or later they're going to slip up. I don't think the Bills are the team to do it, though. Patriots are dominant in Foxborough, even without injuries. They're just going to replace Edelman with Amendola, and I don't know. I hate Rex Ryan, so I'm taking the Patriots in this one. So those are our NFL picks of the week. Hopefully this week you can win some money going off of our picks. Sorry for last week, but it is what it is. So we're going to end the show, as always, with our bold prediction of this upcoming weekend of sports. Chris, what is your bold prediction, sir?
Well, my bold prediction is so bold that I didn't even believe it when I was doing my picks. But I have another undefeated team. I gave the undefeated curse last week. I said one of the undefeateds would fall, and it turns out it was my own Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm sorry about that, but at least we got that one out of the way. I do think another one goes down. Whether it be the Panthers or Patriots, there's only 2 to go, but this is the week that it happens, in my opinion.
E?
All right, this is where I get a little angry. I've got something to say about Alabama and the SEC fans. You're going to enjoy another monstrous victory this week when you host Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern. I'm sick and tired of SEC fans talking about the Big Ten doesn't play anybody. Nobody plays our schedule. When an SEC team versus an SEC team, it's, oh, we beat up on each other. But when it's Ohio State versus Michigan State, it's, well, one of those teams are really bad. No, I want to look at Alabama's non-conference schedule this year. Louisiana Monroe, they're tough. Middle Tennessee State, they're awesome. Charleston Southern, they're fantastic. Let's take a look at Michigan, that team up north. They played Utah to open the season, ranked. They've played BYU, ranked. They played Oregon State, Pac-12, and they played UNLV. Ohio State, they played Virginia Tech, who's in the ACC, one of the Big Four. Sure, they played Hawaii, Northern Illinois, and Western Michigan. SEC, shut your mouths, play your football, win your games, do it with a little bit of, I don't know, class. I know that's tough. It's a 5-letter word. You might not be able to spell it.
Throwing the hammer down. My bold prediction also has to do with the college football playoffs. As some of you may know, as of right now on Tuesday night at 11:25 at night, they've already released the college football playoffs. Number 1 is Clemson. 2 is a one-loss Alabama. 3 is Ohio State. And 4 is Notre Dame. My bold prediction is by the end of this, before the playoffs begin, we'll have 1-loss SEC teams, 2-loss SEC teams, whatever it is. We'll have 4 SEC teams in the college football playoffs because they love the SEC. We know it. There's a bias. Everyone knows it. But hopefully our Buckeyes, my Buckeyes, get in there at the end and dominate again like they did last year. Hopefully Zeke Elliott continues to dominate on the ground, and hopefully we can give College Game Day a good game against Michigan State and come out with a win. But that is my bold prediction that we will have 4 SEC teams in their eyes that deserve to be in the college football playoffs. So that's our show, another great show. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you guys for the continued support. Like us on Facebook, like our page. It's Ohio Sports Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio. You can tweet at us. Send us questions, comments. We love it. Check out our website, ohsportsradio.com, constantly updating it with new content. Thank you guys for all your hard work as always. You guys got anything else to say? Chris?
Houday Nation, please don't be too harsh on me this week. I know I picked against you with Arizona. Trying to be reasonable here. However, weekly picks be damned. I'll be rooting hard for the Bengals. Have faith in that.
Yeah, Chris does have some ground to make up, guys. He does not want to wear a Cleveland Browns jersey in his profile picture. So
strategy here.
Chris is picking for his life, basically. E, do you got anything else to add,
Absolutely.
brother?
I may not log on to Facebook Sunday night. I think Arizona's going to win this game, and I can't take Bengals fans. Chris, Jared, you guys are realistic. I appreciate you guys. There's other ones out there that are realistic. I appreciate you guys. There's nothing wrong with being a fan of the game, but take a step back and breathe every once in a while. Aaron Rodgers said it, RELAX, relax.
Yeah, Browns fans, that goes for you too. There's some Browns fans out there that are constantly annoying with the things they say, but it's sports. That's what makes it great. Thank you again to everyone. Check out our YouTube page, Ohio Sports Radio. Go like us on Facebook, Ohio Sports Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio. Continuing trend. And check out our website, ohsportsradio.com, constantly updating it with new content for you guys. Thanks again to all the people that make this possible. And Ian, Houday, Ian.
We bark together.
Houday.
That's right. Thank you, guys. See you next week.